climber, and I know what it's like to be the wife of a climber who doesn't come home.
Jennifer was previously married to one of America's finest mountaineers, Alex Lowe, Conrad's climbing partner and closest friend. Just a few months after finding Mallory's body, Conrad was climbing with Alex when the mountains claimed another life.
An avalanche struck Alex and I as we were climbing in the Himalayas. He died, and I was 3 feet away from him.
She could just look at him and tell that he was burdened with this world of guilt and grief, that somehow he could have prevented Alex's death.
In the aftermath of this tragedy, we communicated with each other, and eventually we grew to fall in love. And it wasn't just Jennifer that my love grew for, it was also the boys. Jennifer must really like climbers to willingly bring me into her life and then marry and have me adopt the boys, because she knows it's downright dangerous work. Boys, dearly, look what I found downstairs.
Whoa!
Good God.
Is this my Halloween costume, or is this what I'm going up Everest in? You guys are laughing.
You look like Inspector Gadget.
You're supposed to take me serious. Mom can appreciate it.
Oh, it's amazing to think of those guys going for the summit in clothing like that. Would you climb Everest in that suit?
No,
What would you wear?
I wouldn't climb Everest.
Before climbing Everest, Mallory had to choose his climbing partner. Among the candidates was a 21-year-old chemistry student, Andrew Sandy Irvin, a mountaineering novice.
My great-uncle Sandy Irvin took life by the horns, and if there was an opportunity that presented itself to him, he would take it. He loved the theatre, he loved cars, and above all, he loved women. And he had this very indiscreet love affair with his best friend's stepmother. It was a terrible scandal. But Sandy Irvin was, first and foremost, an oarsman. When he got to Oxford, he was selected to take part in the Oxford and Cambridge boat race.
The annual boat race was the most prestigious sporting event of the day.
They were victorious. And what Mallory saw in Sandy was this extraordinary ability that great oarsmen have, which is to row through pain, to push himself almost beyond normal human limit.
But there was another reason for choosing Irvin. Mallory needed someone technical to master the oxygen equipment vital at high altitude. And unlike Mallory, Irvin was very practical.
Sandy asked the Mount Everest committee to send him a 1922 set, plus the drawings. And he spent hours and hours in his rooms in Oxford, trying to make it serviceable, trying to make it lighter, stronger, and less fragile, so that the climbers could use it with greater confidence. And so the fact that Sandy was so practical with the apparatus, I think made it quite clear in Mallory's mind that he was a useful man to have climbing with him.
Conrad Anker has also chosen a young Englishman as his climbing partner, Leo Houlding. Like Irvin, Leo is young, strong, a natural athlete, and has never climbed at high altitude. The 90 feet high second step will be a dangerous venture into the unknown.
I'm definitely concerned about the altitude and the acclimatization process, just because I've never been high enough before to know whether, I might be one of those people that it doesn't gel with. I don't want to let Conrad down, and I'm sure Irvin felt some of that pressure.
Leo's never been to altitude, this unknown. And you can't walk into a hospital and take a test that will come back and say, oh, you'll do well at altitude. Some people do really well, but I've seen fit people doubled over and with splitting headaches.
Being invited to climb the highest mountain in the world with Conrad, one of the best climbers in his generation, is such a privilege. For Irvin, being invited to climb with George Mallory, the best climber of his generation, on the unclimbed Mount Everest, I just can't imagine how he must have felt.
I am walking on metaphorical air. We shall go all out for the summit. If I have to die, then there would be no finer death than in an attempt to conquer Everest.
On February the 29th, 1924, Mallory set sail from Liverpool after making Ruth a solemn promise.
As my grandfather was leaving England and leaving my grandmother, he told her that he would leave a photograph of her at the top of Mount Everest. And I think he was pretty confident that he would get there and that he would leave that photograph.
With the eyes of the world upon them, Mallory and Irvin set out on the 3-week voyage for India. Late that March, their convoy began its 350-mile trek. "5,000 miles apart, Mallory and Ruth wrote to each other frequently. Couriers carried their letters across the world, and after the months of tension they'd gone through, he and Ruth made up.
I do miss you a lot. I know I have rather often been cross and not nice, and I'm very sorry. I was unhappy at getting so little of you. Very, very much love to you, my dear one. Your loving Ruth.
Dearest one, we went through a difficult time together in the autumn. Your letters bring you much nearer. I wish I had you with me.
We can think of the relationship between Mallory, Everest, and Ruth as a kind of love triangle. When he was at home with Ruth, he was dreaming of Everest. When he was away with Everest, he was dreaming of Ruth. Until a certain point, until he got sufficiently close to the mountain that it cast its spell over him.
The convoy of 300 pack animals and 70 porters journeyed through Tibet. Provisions included 4 cases of Montebello champagne and 60 tins of quail and foie gras. On April the 25th, 17,000 feet up, they reached the last pass before Everest, Pang La.
The Pang La is the pass where you get the first stunning view of Everest, right?
Yeah, and it's this vista. You've got 5 of the world's highest peaks in one view. That's Everest. Wow.
It's so much bigger than all the other ones, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's really special how we haven't had any sign of the mountain, and then you drive up to this high pass, and then she just reveals herself in all her glory. You know, Chomolungma, mother goddess of the earth, the mountain we call Everest, just bang!
This wonderful photograph taken on the 26th of April, 1924 is pretty amazing. I mean, see Everest there. There's Mallory, Irvine, a couple of their Sherpas they had with them and their pony.
This is almost exactly the same spot, right?
Pretty close. And they spent 3 weeks trekking on the plateau to get to this point, to be able to see it. And they were on their feet. They'd walked every day. I mean, you think for us to get here, we've been in a Jeep.
On April the 29th, Mallory and Irvine set up their center of operations, base camp, 12 miles from the summit. Like Mallory, Conrad will rely heavily on Sherpa porters, accustomed to high altitude. But this is still a dangerous mountain. Over 200 people have died here, among them many Sherpas.
Well, most important is safety. 10 fingers, 10 toes, 1 nose. I'll come back.
2 eyes.
Yes, 2 eyes. Oh, good. Yeah. And if you see something with us, if we look sick, then you tell us and say, go down, Barasab Yorb. China, Barasab Pinish. Before one embarks on an expedition, it's customary to have a puja, which is a blessing ceremony. As Chomolungma is mother goddess of the earth, the mountain is a deity for the Tibetans and the Sherpas. Safe passage depends upon having a good puja.
Good luck, buddy.
Lots of luck.
The monks from the ancient monastery nearby gave Mallory a very mixed welcome when he approached their sacred mountain, Chomolungma.